Hi everybody, Jim Roth here, your instructor. What I wanted to show you was a process for narrowing your topic, because the biggest mistake beginning researchers make is they take too large of a topic and they get lost in all of the data, all of the information that's possible. But I know it's also really comforting to begin that way, because you're worried that you won't be able to find enough to write whatever length of paper the assignment requires. So let me show you. It's really the narrowing game, and it really comes if you're doing a bit of a literature review where you're looking typically on the internet or in the databases at the library, and you are trying to find what has been written about your subject and what is being written right now about your subject. But you're really looking for pieces of the subject that you see as you browse through, and you want to make sure you get a pencil and a piece of paper out and you collect the names of those pieces, and I'll show you why. So here's the example. I took astronomy as the general subject, and I know that I couldn't cover astronomy in a huge book, let alone 5-page, 8-page, whatever the assignment is, research paper. And so I started browsing astronomy, and I'm looking for pieces, okay? And I found in this tools and equipment of astronomy. So what do astronomers use? So see how automatically now I've stepped down to a piece or a smaller unit of idea than astronomy, right? But it still isn't going to work for me. It's still way, way too much. So I did another with tools and equipment, and I browsed a bit, and I found space telescopes as opposed to ground-based telescopes. And then into my head popped a possible research question: why a space telescope? What's wrong with the ground? But then I said, no, I'm going to keep going. And so I found an example that they kept mentioning, the Hubble Space Telescope. And then the impact it had over the last, I think, 30 years that it's been up there, maybe more. And so I thought, wow, okay, it's been there a while, so maybe a smaller piece would be the history of the Hubble. And sure enough, there was a lot on it, particularly when it was first launched, there was a problem with the lens. And the problem was that it sent back fuzzy images, right? So notice where I've come so far. I've gone to space-based telescopes, to the Hubble, to its impact, to the problem when it was initially launched, to basically the definition of the problem, fuzzy vision at first, right? Okay, but then see here, I kind of got off track, because and then I saw, well, they're going to end the Hubble. In other words, they're going to basically turn it off, and the reason is there's this new telescope, Spitzer telescope, that's coming on. So I thought, well, maybe that's something to research. Why are they going to turn off the Hubble? Or what's so superior about the Spitzer? Okay. But then I thought, these are yellow, because I thought, no, I'm going to erase these. I'm going to stick with the Hubble, right? Okay. And get to its flaw. So here's the path that I ended up deciding. From astronomy, I went to a smaller piece to equipment, right? From equipment, I went to a smaller piece for telescopes, and then from telescopes, I went to space-based telescopes. You see how it's a tree, right? It's getting narrower and narrower as I go out on the branches. The big trunk is astronomy. I'm way out here on a little branch now on space-based telescopes, but off that little branch are even smaller branches, and those are the ones I want to write down and from which I can choose a topic that is the correct size for me, right? Okay, so continuing with what I was saying. So from space-based telescopes, I went narrower to the Hubble. From the Hubble, I went to the history. From the history, I went to the problem in its initial launch. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe that's what I'm going to actually look for information on, to actually spend my time reading. The rest of this has been a browse so far. But I'm actually going to study and learn about the initial problem, okay, that delivered fuzzy pictures. And then from there, I just pretend, how about if I learn what the solutions offered were, because obviously today it sends back crystal clear images, and which one they chose, and then what happened, okay. But if I can make it just this far, and look how tiny this is. Typically a student researcher would look at this and said, there's no way I can find enough information. But trust me, anymore you can find an overwhelming amount of information on the tiniest of topics. Okay, and the nice thing about this is this means now that when I'm looking for sources to teach myself about this, that's all I have to look for, sources about this. I don't have to look for anything in general about space-based telescopes, nor the Spitzer, nor astronomy. See, all of this now is basically blocked out for me and it's made a whole lot easier. So that's basically the narrowing game.